Komon-Tok, in case you don't know. Oh yeah. Whenever we pledge with love and loyalty to his sweet, sweet mamas alone. Now we all four come together as one for tomorrow. Now we go make salon. Anytime where you pay, anytime where you go, anything you they do, it no matter. Oh yeah, it no matter. Now we for turn up Tanga one, inside Sierra Leone. Let one big family, cause no place like home. In case you don't know, this not Komon-Tok. We'll bring information about salon. In case you don't know, this not Komon-Tok. We'll bring information about salon for education, entertainment, political affairs. Tune in Komon-Tok for education, entertainment, political affairs. Tune in Komon-Tok.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another thrilling segment on the Komon-Tok platform. Today, we are honored to have with us Honorable Miatta Fahnbulleh, Member of Parliament for Peckham, and as also the Minister for Energy Consumers. Miatta is a distinguished voice in governance, policy, and social justice, with a deep commitment on economic reform, women's rights, advocate for working class. She has been at the forefront of championing change. Today, we will be discussing a political journey bound to a legacy that bridges Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the United Kingdom. She will bring a unique perspective to the platform, bold leadership, journey from activism to parliament, our vision for change. What's next for her and the community she serves? You'll soon find out. If you're just joining us, this is Komon-Tok. You can watch the program on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Instagram. When we come, we will introduce the big woman in the building. Yes, today is a remarkable day here. We're coming shortly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This now Komon-Tok, in case you don't know. Oh, yeah. Whenever we pledge with love and loyalty to his sweet, sweet mamas alone.
All right, as always, yes, Fahnbulleh, we all know what to do, right? Sharing is caring. Please consider share the program. This is our strength. Anyway, let me use this opportunity to welcome the big woman in the building. Honorable, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Right, we'll start as always. They say charity begins at home, and today we want to just to get what we've been waiting for, the inspiration, the personality behind the inspiration for a lot of people who've been chasing, yearning to listen to this conversation. But first of all, we want to go back in time just to understand being born with a Liberian father and a Sierra Leonean mother. How does your dual heritage shape your identity, values, and how have you been managing these very unique opportunities?
Yeah, look, I think my background has fundamentally shaped my values and my politics, to be honest. I think there is a richness. People always say, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Sierra Leone, I'm from Liberia. And, my mom is the Sierra Leonean side, my dad is the Liberian side. They definitely did their job of making sure that we grew up understanding our identity, we grew up understanding our history, we grew up understanding where we've come from and therefore where we need to go to. And we moved to the UK when I was young, when I was 7, and I think growing up here, it was really important for them and important for me that they instilled all of that in us, so that we understood our purpose, our role, and what we were representing. And the tradition on both my families, so on my father's side, steeped in politics and public service, on my mom's side, steeped in public service. So, the one thing I think my parents taught me was that for as long as we are here, we have a duty to play our role. And it doesn't matter what that role is, but you've got a duty to play a role. You've got a duty to make your contribution. And we grew up talking about politics. We grew up talking about the injustices, the plight of people who should have a better deal that don't have a better deal. And that fundamentally shaped my politics. So, I grew up fundamentally believing that whatever I did, it was going to be a contribution to public service. And for me, I think there's another layer, which is, when you come here as a first generation immigrant and you see, people come with hopes, people come to make a better life for themselves, for their children, and you see the barriers that are stacked up. And that sits with you. And so I always knew that whatever I did, it was going to be in service of trying to change that. So that the path that others have to tread is easier than the path that, my parents' generation, my generation have had to tread.
Well, I was just going to jump in. You mentioned your mom is from Sierra Leone. There is something that I know every Sierra Leonean fully understand. What about cassava leaf? Have you had the opportunity to taste cassava leaf, or
Of
do you
course.
know?
Cassava leaf,
I know,
okra, bitter leaf,
I
jollof
know.
rice. And look, the beauty of Peckham, and why Peckham is home for every Sierra Leonean in London, in the UK, is you could go to Peckham and you can find any food. So we don't do without.
You don't do that. And I hope sometimes when you have your town hall meeting, you'll be, because the last time I don't see cassava leaf, or I don't know what happened.
We'll make sure we get that right next time.
Thank you very much. All right. We've gone through a little bit of research, and we see that you've been having a distinguished career in economics and policy research before entering politics. What is the motivation towards leaving behind, or if you have already done so, to move into politics?
That's a good question. So, look, I think I always thought I'd be an economist, and in part because I think from a very young age I could see that the economy didn't work for most people, and that there were fundamental unfairness and injustices that I thought needed to change. And I thought understanding the economy and then thinking about how to change it was the way to do that. And so, for much of my career, for the last 15, 20 years, I've been in the world of trying to come up with ideas about how we reform the economy so that it works for the majority of people. And I thought that was my calling. And for a long time it was, generation campaigning. And the last job before I made the leap into politics, I was running an organization that campaigned for ideas about how we change the economy. And during COVID, which was, I think, the thing that the shift for me. We were part of a coalition of organizations, certainly in this country, but the same movement was happening across the world, where people were seeing everything that we saw and learnt in the pandemic. And the debate then was, national trauma has shone this massive spotlight on deep inequalities in our society, on the value that we should place on our workers, our doctors, our nurses, the people that make our society run, and that we don't often pay enough that reflects the value of what they bring to society. So there were these big conversations, and we were running a campaign, and we said, listen, we cannot go back. We cannot go back. This has to be a moment of change. This has to be a moment where we pivot away and start to deal with some of the fundamental inequalities in our society. And when we didn't, and I think country after country have seen this. And at the time, the Prime Minister here was Boris Johnson. We were campaigning for Build Back Better. That was our phrase. And he took it, yes, we will build back better. And they didn't. And worse than that, I think we went back not just to the old normal, but worse than the old normal. And I think for me, I was winded by that. And I said, and I thought, look, we need people on the outside. My view about how we drive change is that we drive change when people organize, they mobilize, and movements drive change. So you look at big changes in our politics is when people have come together and shaped and driven politics. So you need people on the outside campaigning and pushing, but you also need people on the inside that will help drive that change. And I think for me, that was the moment when I thought, look, time to go on the inside and to play my part, and hopefully a Labour government to try and drive that change. And then it coincided with my predecessor, Harriet Harman, who had been the MP for Camberwell and Peckham for 42 years, deciding to step down. And when I thought, gosh, chance to represent this community with all its richness, big Sierra Leonean community, big West African community. And I was like, if there's one seat in the country I want to represent, it is this seat. So the stars aligned, and I find myself here.
Right, that's impressive. And again, when it comes to the Peckham youth, and we see, of course, everybody understand the economic challenge now we are facing. We have a vibrant youth population here. So what's your vision empowering the young people in the constituency, whether in education, empowerment, or in heart? What's actually is the driving force? What's the vision here?
Yeah, listen, so the approach I've taken is to talk to people. So when I was running the campaign and since, I've just been to schools, youth clubs, youth centres, and just spoken to people. And the approach I took to the way I would try and navigate politics is understand where people are and what they need, and then use my voice and my agency and the levers that I have in order to speak for them and to fight for them. And so in all those conversations, look, three things came up, which I think speaks to where if I do my job well, I can make a contribution to create a pathway for the younger generation, which we absolutely have to. Housing is fundamental, and one of the biggest issues that that I get in my casework is just housing and the quality of homes. And for me, that is the foundation. If you can give people a decent home that they can afford, that creates the bedrock for everything else. The thing that young people in our community tell me a lot is they don't feel safe in the streets. They don't feel safe in the community, and so that's become the sort of second priority, because I'm like, well, look, if our kids don't feel safe being in the community, if we can't create spaces for them to grow and thrive, where they can go, they can be themselves, they can touch others and others touch them in positive ways, what are we doing? And then the third thing is economic empowerment. And that's the language that's used, a sort of sense that there is a ceiling. It feels like there is a ceiling, and times are hard. And what we want to know is where are the opportunities for us to progress? Where are the opportunities for us to do well? And those three things I heard time and time again from young people, but actually across the piece. And those have become the three things that are like the lodestar, my priorities. And so whatever I'm doing in government, as an MP in the constituency, working with the council, working with the Mayor of London, it's in order to advance those three things. Because I think if we can deliver people feeling safe in the community and feeling it is their community, that they can walk in and own and have spaces for them to grow and thrive, if we can do that basic thing of making sure that people have a decent roof over their heads, and we create economic opportunities for people so that, you are as good as your skill and your talent. And that's just not the reality for too many of our people at the moment. Then I will be doing my job as an MP well.
Okay, that's great. Wish you all the best on that. All right, and look at, because we know for every politician, there is always maybe transition. You just don't want to probably stop here. What's the long-term vision here? Probably, are you looking for any maybe a much more bigger role in your party? Maybe sometimes in the future. What do you have anything in mind? Just so we keep our mind aligned.
But listen, so I've been an MP for 8 months, and I also got the privilege of being asked to become a minister, and that's quite rare to be able to do. To be asked to do both so soon. I want to do that job well. I want to do those two jobs really, really well. And it matters, the stuff I'm doing in my ministerial role is bread and butter things. It's about getting energy bills down at a time when the cost of energy is a massive, massive drag on people. And it is about, upgrading people's homes so that they are warmer and they are cheaper to run. And it matters. I know from conversations I have with people in the community, I know from my casework, it matters. And so there is a big sense of responsibility to have the chance and the privilege to do this kind of a job that if I get right, bread and butter issues we're having an impact on. And so I'm focused on that. But, my background, I'm an economist. And in the end, we need to get the economy to work for people. So I for as long as people vote me in, I will hopefully be able to play my part in the Labour Party. But I'm very, very clear about what we need to do, which is we have to change the way the economy works. We've got to change the economic settlement. We've got to make sure that we are creating opportunities for people in the middle and people in the bottom. And we fundamentally have to close the inequalities that, I feel in my bones are absolutely wrong. There's some people that see the minority of people getting richer every day and a big majority of people struggling, and I think that's okay. That's not how I'm built. That's not where my politics is. I think we need to restructure the economy to deal with those issues, and you don't do it by hoping, you do it by big, bold ideas. So that's the role I hope I'll play in the Labour Party, to be able to bring big ideas, to be clear about a reforming vision so that we get an economy that works for everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll take just a minute, and when we come, we'll jump into the remaining questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This now Komon-Tok, in case you don't know. Oh, yeah. Whenever we pledge with love and loyalty to a sweet mamas alone. Now we all come together as one for tomorrow. Now we go make salon. Anytime where you day, anytime where you go, anything you they do, it no matter. Oh yeah, it no matter. Now we for turn up Tanga.
All right. Someone just asked me if you do speak Creole.
I talk small. I didn't mix them with English.
Small. Thank you. We watched this. I guess this is your first debate, or probably your first speech in Parliament. Am I correct? How was that there for you?
Yeah, so that was my maiden speech, and that's the first. So before you can do anything in Parliament, you've got to do your maiden speech as your sort of introduction to the House, but also to your constituency. And it's a big moment. And I think the thing for me is you have a really huge sense of responsibility. I think it's that moment it dawns on you that you are not just there as yourself, you are there representing a whole lot of people that have invested trust and hope and faith in you. And you have to wear that, and you have to carry that with such care. And, for me, the big thing I wanted to convey was that, look, I'm in politics for one reason, and that's to drive change. And for as long as I am in politics, I will fight relentlessly for that. And I will fight relentlessly for the change that I want to see in my community, but that I was there to serve. My brand of politics is we are here as a privilege. We are put here by our constituents, by people who vote for you because they believe that you will do the best by them. And you have to wear that, and you have to hold that with all the respect that it deserves. So the one thing I wanted to say was not to speak to the cameras or to speak to my colleagues in the House, but to speak to my constituents and say, I will always have you in my mind's eye. And every decision I make, I will make in your interest. And if there is a decision that I'm being asked to make in this place that is not in your interest, I will not make it. And that was a really important thing for me to say, because I think it grounds you. I've made my promise to the people that have put me in this place, and I will hold to that promise.
Right. And the last thing that I'll probably want to, because this is very, very important for us. If you're to accomplish just a thing as a member of parliament for your constituency, what could that thing be and why?
So that's a very good question. And I'll answer it because there are lots of things I want to do in my time in Parliament for as long as I'm voted to. But I have the opportunity now to do something, and of all the things I want to achieve for my community, the cost of living is a number one issue for people across Peckham. People under pressure, their pay packets haven't increased as much as it should have. And actually, for many people, it has flatlined for the last 15 years. And the cost of essentials, whether that's their housing, whether that's their energy bill, whether that's food, has gone up. And I spent a lot of time talking to people across the constituency, and there is huge resilience, there's hope, but people are struggling. And so the one thing I want to make a contribution to is the cost of living. And I have the privilege to do that. So in the job I have, my one role is to try and get energy bills down. And that is hard.
Yeah, that is important.
It's a hard task that we've set ourselves, but we have to. And I'm like, well, if we can achieve that over the course of the Parliament, and I actually have the job that gives me the opportunity to make a big contribution to that. If I do that, I can see the faces of all the people that this will impact on and help. And for me, there are many things I want to do as long as I'm in politics, but I have the chance to do this thing.
And is there any timeline, probably, when we're expecting at least the energy bill to go down a little bit?
We are working on it relentlessly. Look, in the end, in 4 and a bit years' time, we will go back to the country, and I will go back to my constituents in Peckham and say, vote for me again. And people will ask the question, how has our life got better?
Yeah.
And they will ask, how, do I feel better off? And there will be 2 things that will drive that. One will be people's wages are up. And so things like, the increase in the minimum wage that is coming into force next week, but also our ability to get the cost of essential like energy will be front and center of whether they can answer yes to that question. So it will take time, because we're trying to unwind a whole set of things that have been put in place for the last 15 years. It will take time, because the reason that energy bills are so high is because we are so reliant on global oil and gas markets that are driving up prices. We don't have energy security, we don't have independence, and we've got to turn that all around. But if we have not done the job of impacting on that by the end of this Parliament, people will take a very, very, very dim view of that. So we've got a term, and the clock is ticking, so we've got to get on with it.
Indeed. I think this question, I must ask this question because it's concerned everyone, climate change.
Yeah.
How are you trying, what kind of policy actually will fit into the net zero, as I know it probably fall under your purview when it comes to climate change, which is threatening everyone?
It is. And, climate change is... I'm passionate about it because it matters for the next generation, but it matters for this generation as well. And, the sort of tragedy for me in the sort of politics of climate change is that it should be the number one issue. There should be urgency and pace in every single country, because it is existential, and it is now. And you only have to look across the world to see the impacts. We no longer talk about it in the future. It is here and now. And politics has been too slow. Political will hasn't been there. Now, in our department, my boss, Ed Miliband, has been a long champion of this, has played a big role on the international stage. We were one of the first countries that put in place a Climate Change Act under his leadership. And so, the way that we see it is we absolutely have to run at this at home, partly to show leadership about how it can be done and what needs to be done, but we've also got to play our role on the international stage. So we will do, we're trying to get to clean power by 2030. We are doing our bit to decarbonise the UK because we have a historic responsibility to do that. But that's not enough. We have got to make sure that we do our bit in order to ensure that other countries are going on that same journey. And we've got to do our bit to make sure that we are providing climate finance in order to help other countries manage and mitigate and adapt to climate change. And for me, the global north has been the emitters for generations, and we've got a duty and a responsibility to play our part in helping the whole world navigate through this threat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the final question that we will have for you tonight, what list do you have for the questions, the Peckham guys, they are currently watching? What message do you have for them? How do you to connect and engage with them? Really, it's not just probably after the election and then things, of course, you just mentioned that you have to go back to them. What kind of message do you have for them?
I'm here. And the reason why that's my message is, so since I became an MP, about 5,000 people have been in touch with me to help me with their cases. And that's everything from problems that they're having with their housing, overcrowding, to immigration issues, to issues with the police. So a whole load of issues. But, many people don't realize that they can get in touch with their MP and that I'm here to serve them and help them. So one of the things that we're trying to do is meet people where they are. So, the people who know, they're filling my inbox, they'll write to me, they know to get in touch with me, and we will respond because that's our job and that's what we're there to do. But I'm trying to go into, our community centres, our estates, and just say to people, we are here to help and serve. And the thing I find is that often when people come to me, it's because they've exhausted all other avenues. They're banging their heads against the wall. They're trying to navigate through a system that's just not working for them. And sometimes just having the MP behind your back, having the MP use my voice and whatever soft power I have to push and advocate for you can make a difference. So the one message is that I'm here to serve. That is my job, that is my role. If you need help, reach out. I'm doing the things that I've heard the community wants me to do and focus on: housing, safer streets, economic opportunities. We won't always get it right as a government. So it's both the things I can do as the MP, but it's also the things I can do with my government. But I say to people, call me out, tell me, have the conversation. We will create spaces to engage. We'll create town halls. I'll go wherever to speak to people, but reach out because unless you tell me what you need and what I should be doing better, I won't be able to do it for you. And the one thing that I must do, and the one thing I've been tasked to do, is to represent and to serve my community.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. And do you have any final word for maybe whoever is listening, or because we have people from different part of the world that are watching, or your last message, if you have any?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, look, it's absolutely brilliant to have the conversation. And, people always say, what's your message to others? I've made the leap into politics, and I've done it at a time when the world feels far more scary and precarious than it's ever done before. I think the challenges that we face, I've talked a lot about the economy because that's my passion, but country after country are feeling the pressures of things not working for people. And in the end, change comes because people come together to fight for that change. And it can be done in small ways, it can be done in big ways. And the thing I always say this when I go into any space, is we all have agency and we all have power. And in the end, there is a big job that we have to do to rewire so much of how the economy in a particular country or the global economy is working. The settlement that people have, the deal is getting worse and worse. And I think we all have our role to play in helping to drive that change. There is strength in numbers, there is power in numbers. And in the end, using your agency, however big or small that is, to push for the things that you can see is right or wrong in your community that needs to change, is the way in which we achieve big change.
All right, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, fantastic evening. And of course, my family members, this is the end of the program for today. We hope perhaps in future we'll have Miatta again on the platform. Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This now Komon-Tok, in case you don't know. Oh, yeah.